Good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. Last week we had given you a brief intro about the world of machine learning, right? So today we will be discussing about the reporting analytics and deep diving into the business intelligence landscape. Let me brief you about the data visualization first. I mean, why should you focus on such a skill in the first place? Now, you might already be aware that there is a lot of data everywhere around, like different infrastructures, different domains, and multiple data files, which can be anywhere between several megabytes to several terabytes. Now, suppose if somebody comes up to you and start asking you, tell me something about the data that you have. So the last thing that you would be doing is like kind of printing it in an A4 sheets and say, hey, take this. This is the data here, right? So that is the last thing someone be expecting out of you.
Yeah.
Now, this visualization process is basically abstraction of all this data that you have at your hand and turning them into some form of visual magic. So if someone comes up to you and tell you, like, what kind of data you can have and you can show for, you can easily say that, okay, these are the visual cues I can give you. So what do I mean by this visual magic or cues? Anything which is two-dimensional in nature, like a screen or a A4 sheet, where you can pass on as much information as possible to communicate with the audience. Now you might be wondering, yeah.
Debian, are you sorry to interrupt. Are you changing your slides? What we see is the first one, the opening slide, data visualization, reporting, analytics, a guide by Mr. Debian.
Sorry, I think it's paused. So now you can see.
Yep. Now you see it. Yes. So I have a question for you actually.
Yeah, sure.
So you said A4 sheets is not good, and but I have a pen and a paper. You said a pen and a paper is enough to draw any two-dimensional or three-dimensional things. I can draw actually two-dimensional, three-dimensional pen and paper. So
Right.
why do we need this session? Why do we need you today to tell us what is visualization and why do we need this course? Maybe
Yeah.
let us ask the audience. Did you hear? Any of you could answer actually. Did you hear already that there are data visualization analyst roles? How many of you know that there are job roles where analysts create these nice charts, graphs, dashboards, show some outlier analysis, show some statistical analysis using charts, and these dashboards actually directly go to the CXO level, CEO, director, sales. Although there are data scientists who have worked, but these guys are the ones who do magic on this and then put in front of the clients. So if any of you are already Binod, I know is from data visualization background. So I hope you would enjoy this session today, knowing this.
I've been on this side. So yeah, exactly. I've been working on this. I've been preparing charts and all with the data, but it's like, what more can we do? So I was just expecting that. It's okay.
Got it, Binod. Over to you, Devan.
Yeah. So let me start with a very simple example. So Vinod here, right? So I'll take your example. So just imagine Vinod is a manager of a coffee shop, or maybe an analyst working for Starbucks CEO. Okay, and the Starbucks CEO comes down to you in a chit chat meeting and asks you to tell him the profit margin for his coffee shop for last 6 months. Okay. Now you can't really tell him like, okay, $100 you made the $200 or $300, right? That makes not much sense. So the ideal or the possible way where you can represent to him the goodwill of his company is probably through a trend chart or a bar chart, where he gets a good vibe or a good feel about how his company is progressing, right? And it becomes much more better. Like, he gets a good analysis every month whether his company is going up or down. So if you give him a tabular data or a lot of files, that would really make no sense. Now whenever you are sensitizing the data using some visual magic, that will prove the point across whenever you're trying to communicate. So you might be wondering, like, besides Vinod, the participants who have very little exposure or maybe mild exposure to visualization, that can you do it too? How difficult is this course, and whether there are jobs at entry level also? So you can easily get an entry level job into this field, depending on the kind of tools or the technology you associate with, and given the right guidance from the industry expert professionals, you can master this art of visualizing the data, and you can
But
show it
maybe
across.
we can ask the audience, or we can ask you too, Deb, to show us the process involved here, right? From data to nice, beautiful dashboards. I mean, and that's why all of us are here today, all the
Yeah,
participants. We want to
yeah.
see you. You take us from data till some nice visualizations, and then we will believe you. Okay.
Okay, so let me share a file with you. You can see my file.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. This is huge data, huge. You can see this file, right? And there are so many columns, right here. Now, okay, before we talk about the file, let me give you the idea behind why I'm showing you this file. So this is just a demo file, but recently I had an interaction with one of the client, and he's working for a big MNC, and he has a requirement. So let's just say Walmart is like, he's handling an account called Walmart. It's just like our DMart or Big Bazaar, and yeah, his global sales head comes up to him for some help, and he has this data which you're seeing on screen, right? And given that this global sales head has a lot of this supermarket in different states of US, in a lot of cities, right? Now that sales data is huge if you consider the daily level of transactions, right? Which one of the examples you're seeing in the screen in this particular Excel file. Now, if you see the data at first glance, this raw data, it's so many fields, like huge number of fields, right? These fields and this data is huge, and simply making something out of this looks a bit intimidating at first. So you might be wondering, what can you do about this data when someone gives it to you, right? Even initially, we took a look at the file, and it was very confusing for us. Now, to provide some good finding, we need to understand what does this global sales head is expecting to see. Basically, what kind of answers he's looking for. The most easiest questions he will be asking, what is the total sales, or his total profit, or maybe who are the top customers. That is the ideal cues one is looking for. Now, to answer the question, you can see we have sales, we have quantity, discount, profit, and if I click on this column R, it sums up, right? I can see this $22 million transaction. If I do click on the profit, I can see the sum. So you can answer these questions, right? Even top customers, okay, you will do some more analysis on the Excel file, and you can answer them. But what if it comes up with some more complex question, like which state made the maximum profit, and for which city in which month, right? That sounds complex, right? If you have to do that kind of analysis for your client, it sounds very difficult. So now we will try to address some of these problems the client has been facing. You can see my screen. This is a BI tool called Tableau, and whatever you're looking here is one of the charts that where we are representing the sales. I know you can see a lot of green bubbles, big bubbles and small bubbles in yellow color. What we are trying to represent is the states, the cities in US. Since he's a global, though he's a global head of the sales, but he want to see how the US has been performing, and we have plotted the data here. Simply, the greener, the more the greener and bigger the bubble, the identification mark for huge number of sales goes for it. Like the New York City made the most number of sales. Similarly, Los Angeles in California made the highest number of sales. Similarly, San Francisco and Seattle. So he is able to answer those questions. The what initially he was looking only for the top buyer or client, but we are answering with the who is the fourth largest city with the highest amount of sales. So we have done similar analysis with for top states by profit margin. This is just another representation of the data. Something else called which was not added to the expected analysis. So just imagine, suppose your client comes to you and gives you this set of problems. Just he has handed over, right? What if he is not looking to find something and we provide it to him? And that will be a value addition to the analysis you're trying to do, like this standard class, first class, same day, second class. These are shipment mode parameters, like on which method the orders were shipped. And this is one of the example where we are adding what he's not looking forward to, but still answering some of the important questions he might take on as a global head of the sales. These are different types of chart, profit and sales in color coding format. And once you're done, we can collate them in one single landscape in this dashboard, and it gives a very good picture, so he can easily take a decision, basically enabling him to take a much more strong position on what kind of things he can introduce in his daily transactional level to increase his profit or sales margin. Yes. So that answers some of the questions, right? How much profit, how much sales his shop has made, who the top customer, and which we're looking for. And the complex question, like which state made the maximum profit and for which city in which month, you can keep on adding this level of complexity that you're looking forward to.
Deb, we have 2 questions, in fact 4 questions from the audience. Let me take, can you take 1 or 2 now?
Yeah, sure.
So the question is, how do we know which chart is best for which purpose? You just showed one chart. Can it be shown in multiple ways? Maybe the person wants to know how do you select which chart is for what do you want to show?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. So people say that visualization, like seeing is believing. So when you see stuff, then you want to believe it. And if you represent some of this data in any of the fashion and the person doesn't get the point across, it really makes no sense. So the ideal method which I follow is knowing who is your client. First of all, you have to have a very strong hold of the domain, like if you're working for pharmaceutical, logistics, retail, financial. So that level of ideas you need to have, because if you're working, for example, if you're working for a financial background, people are more well versed with balance sheets and all, right? They're well versed with the tabular format of the data. And if you give them very complex, like this chart and the bubbles, right, they will be flabbergasted and intimidated at the same time. So that won't get the point across, right? So that's one way of deciding, like knowing your clients much more better. And second is the technicalities involved. Like once you know the domain and you know which is the right tool, that comes through experience. You start working, start developing, and that level of maturity develops soon.
Yeah. Another question is, why do we need to use these paid tools like Tableau or ClickView? I would say, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है ना?
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I could attempt to answer that. See, data scientists who doesn't involve in the process of visualization, let us say a machine learning engineer, we don't have usually much liberty to play around with the data and draw powerful insights. We are very much focused on only let us say tune a model and then produce the predictions out of the model and try to get it. Whereas I envy Dev's role because first of all, this role is little bit easier to get into data science because there are several things that Dev is going to discuss when Dev and I are discussing over the phone calls. So he says that all you need are like SQL and some sort of language that you have to be familiar with. Then you need to have some data warehouse concepts. Then you need to understand basics of and fundamentals of data science, like basic statistics, business statistics,
Right.
and you have to know storytelling. A machine learning engineer would
Yes.
not have the liberty to do this. Whereas, like, see, Deb has just shown on his Tableau dashboard. Client asked only one thing. What he has shown is multiple things, and anybody can, click on certain thing and let the insights come out onto his face. Earlier, what we used to do, I worked as an analyst who produces insights, looking at huge reports like you have shown. So what we have to do is we have to go into the Excels, look at the data, put some charts there, then look at one chart, look at another chart, look at another chart, and then try to connect all these points and then finally give one insight to the client saying that, hey, looks like California is the fifth biggest one. And we have to tell another point, which is California did better in 3 months in the past 6 months. Now all this is pretty easy. Like you click on California in that US map you have shown, and in the next map it automatically reflects whether California is doing good in the 3 months, did it drop, did it go up, did it go down, and so on. So all these capabilities that modern tools bring, I really like especially Tableau and ClickView. Many enterprise organizations prefer Tableau and ClickView over even Power BI. Although Power BI has takers, but Tableau and ClickView really is a CXO level stuff.
Yes.
What do you think? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Yashrujan, you're very much on point. So even earlier this visualization was like for reporting purpose. People, more people into SQL were hired. So they will fire the query, create the reports manually, and send them across. That's a very very painful job, and it still exists. It's not like that people are not getting hired for those roles. And to make their job easy, these things come into picture. Definitely you need to have a strong hold of SQL knowledge and queries, but this is added bonus, and knowing what to represent, it becomes very smooth journey of the story you want to draw across and show it to your audience. So now that we have seen one good example of data visualization, let me take you through this process of data extraction. Yeah. So now that we know what we have to show, these thing, right, whatever we are trying to show has a huge number of processes involved. The first backbone of this process is what should I call a data extraction. Now basically when you have data in multiple platforms and domains or infrastructures, maybe like Amazon, Salesforce, like AWS and Salesforce, and RDMS, big data, and to bring them on board to one single platform, that's a very very crucial process. What we saw an example in the Excel is basically yeah, example of private data. Yeah. Now let's see an example of public data. So this is an example of a public data set. Now you might be wondering, why do we need this public data set, right? The client will provide us the data, we'll do the analytics, and we can get to go home. But that is not always the case. Sometimes you might be working for a political party who is your client, and they might be having an election campaign going on, and they want to know what is the turnover of the votes that they will be receiving. So in such kind of scenarios, you need to rely on the public data made available by your government bodies or the research bodies, and that will have these demographic factors like population density or maybe the gender diversity, and you can determine how many male will be voting, female will be voting. And this is one of the example of that website, which is published on GitHub, and you can see that like agriculture, biology, so many different domains, software and all, right? These comes into picture. This is very important when you're trying to do analytics using public data sets, even for share price calculation for certain companies, right?
So we
So that
have
is
used Google driving time data for one of our projects recently. And so it's basically public data. Google driving times is public data that people share, public share to Google, and Google supplies this back through APIs.
right, right, yeah, right. So that gives you a good taste about how can you how varied is this landscape is, like this business intelligence visualization landscape. It's very vast. So whenever you have to try to, the end product looks very shiny and very good, right? You see like nice bit of picture and story, but the process itself is very challenging, and the journey takes it, right? It's very, very pleasing. Now that we know about the data extraction process, um, this is another example like how we are extracting the data in Impala, and this is how it looks. We are trying to query something, and get the extracted data for our visualization. Now the second process involved in this data visualization is data cleansing. So once you have extracted the data, you need to clean it, or maybe channel it to the right methodologies to utilize your for visualization. So clearly you can see there are 3 steps. I have broadly listed them: removing the unwanted data, standardizing the data, filtering the data. Now let me give you an example. What do I mean by that? So you can see so many columns, right, in this Excel file. Now this row ID clearly makes no sense, because you have order ID as your unique identification. You can remove them, right? I will be deleting this row. Postal code. Who needs the postal code when you have the state, city, and country date to represent the data? Anything which is doesn't makes no sense, you can just simply delete that. So one of the example is deleting all unwanted columns, and standardizing the data is the second process.
देवांश,
Yeah.
just sorry to interrupt you, but
Yes.
थोड़ा लैग होता है ना आपका स्क्रीन से हमारा स्क्रीन पे. So can you actually slow down a little bit? मतलब आप बोलना भी थोड़ा धीरे बोलिए ना.
Okay. 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 My bad.
Thank you.
So yeah, you can see my screen. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, so this row ID is not required. Okay, I'll simply delete it. Okay, I have another column called postal code, not gonna be of any use. I'll simply delete it. So this is like forming the part of your removing the redundant fields or columns. Yeah. Now coming to the second process of standardizing the data. So you can see I've selected the sales column. Okay, and here the data is up to 3 decimal, somewhere 4 decimal places, but for reporting purpose, when you're reporting to the audience or your boss, and he wants to see an integer number, so you won't require it. So what I can do is simply right click, go to format cells. Okay, I see a number, okay, in this category, and I'll be just removing the decimal place to 0, so I get an integer. It's that simple, right? So this helps you in identifying what needs to be done. Similarly, I can do the same with the profit column. I'm standardizing the data.
But is this how you do in your data? Because millions and billions of rows, I don't think you would be able to do in Excel sheet में तो नहीं कर पाते हैं ना ये सब.
नहीं, wait. So we have 10,000 records in this file, but the millions and millions of data, processing this like one simple task like standardizing will entail a lot of modification in the backend. You need to create stuffs in the SSIS packages or SQL modes. You have to write script to get this thing done. And that actually, why do we need that? You might be asking, like, why do we need SQL? You standardize one process. I'll create one process, feed as much file as you want, and at the end I will get one single file that will clean everything up. That starts to make much more sense than manually deleting an Excel file, which I just showed you.
Okay, so you are saying we need some SQL skills, SQL skills for this?
Right.
Okay.
SQL skills and understanding the process, creating procedure, depend on what kind of SQL you'll be dealing, that complexity goes up. Yeah. So
But
you can see this. Yeah, yes, Rujan.
no, sorry, go ahead, please.
Okay. So you can see this order date column I have, right? So basically on which date I have made the order. Now, if I want to filter the data, your boss comes and tells you, okay, I want to see only 2 years data, man. I don't want all this so much of data in one single file. मेरे boss को सिर्फ 2 साल का ही data चाहिए boss. तुम ये निकाल के दे दो. So what I can do is filter the data at the very beginning, so that I have at the end only what I need to use for my visualization. That also reduces the number of rows. ये जो file है इसमें 10,000 records है, right? And when I'm taking it up in an Excel, I mean from your database, it will reduce that length of that entire table, and that will help you in optimizing things. So these are the small bits and pieces information that will be coming handy. Now we can go back to the presentation. Okay, data cleansing. You understand how data cleansing works. The third process is the data warehousing. It's a very, very vast concept. I know this screen will really make no sense to you. Let me show you one example. So we had already seen this in the data extraction. So we are extracting this to create some schema. So don't be intimidated with this word called schema. It's basically warehouse where we store a lot of boxes in racks, right? And those are stored in some order or some fashion, so that they can be easily carried for transportation to the customer. Similarly, we need to keep this data in this format of properly structured, so that we can easily reference the data, and those data should have some relationship. Simple. Okay, this is one way we are doing it in Impala. This is part of big data project, and this is how it looks in ClickView, where multiple connections like order, customer, order is associated with the employee because who sold the order, which customer bought it, which product that order was related to. So that many information. So this relationship and all, this forms a part of the schema. Another example is in Salesforce. So as and when the things get upgraded, the complexity also intensifies. This is one such example. Now, just as you have seen this example where you understand the relationships, okay, you can define what kind of relationship you want for the particular data sets you have, and depending on the relationship you want, the complexity varies. So this is one example where we call it star schema. How a star looks. In the center we have one file, and it's connected to several billions of files or millions of files, whatever you want to say. So this gives an idea how a schema looks like. This name of the schema is star schema. Another example is this. You call it snowflake schema, and if you want to up the notch, there is something called constellation schema. So understanding these layers of data creation and extraction, cleaning them, storing them in proper shapes and sizes matters, because this will ultimately enable you to visualize the data when you use some of the BI tools. Even this involves one of the BI tool. You can do these data warehousing concepts in ClickView, Tableau, Salesforce, AWS, Impala, SQL Server, Oracle. So these are some of the examples.
I have a question. I have a question from audience, and I have myself also one question.
Yeah, yes, right. Go ahead.
So, so if I know SQL, right? If I know SQL, one of the SQL, let us say Oracle SQL or MS SQL, one of it. Would that be enough to start pulling data from databases and create this schema, and then take the next step to visualization, or is that enough? Is SQL enough?
SQL will only enable to extract the data, but creating the relationship depends on totally different. Like SQL cannot be used to visualize. You can only create relation. Okay, this table has connection to this foreign key, primary key, or the different relation you want to define. But for when you're visualizing it, you might need a third party or intermediate layer where you need to create that. So is SQL, to be honest, SQL is not enough. Okay, SQL is just a starter. It is beginning of the process, but to take it to the end goal, you need to churn the data into multiple fashion.
Yeah, and you said this is the audience question. So you said you can do things inside Tableau. So are you saying that we can create these joins between the tables and then create a Tableau database? Is there something called as Tableau database where I
Yep.
can create a database inside Tableau and save it?
Yep, there is a concept called hypercubes, where we saving all of this data in hyper files in Tableau. So they have come with this live and data extract methodologies, and then we can briefly discuss them in one of the classroom courses. Where you can understand how you can store the data and how you can reutilize the data.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So we have learned about data cleansing. We've seen about data warehousing and data extraction process. So over to you, Srujan. You can brief the audience about the course structure and the certification.
Yes, firstly, let me thank you, Devayan. In such a short time, I think you have covered the entire journey, or how you typically work in your projects. So what we have learned from you is we start with a large, confusing, dirty data. It might not even be clean, so it is not guaranteed to you that it will be clean. So I can't directly take the data and put on the charts and show that, see, this is the sales. Okay, sometimes that is not sales. So you are saying that I have to standardize data. So let us say one country reports its sales in Australian dollars. One country reports its sales in Indian rupees. So I somehow have to standardize this data by using conversions and then finally show the relevant data. Okay, so first I'll do that. Then because a data visualization analyst also has to have the skills of business statistics, right? A little bit of data science, so that he knows what to show on the chart, right? If at all the problem is about let us say number of orders, then if it is important for somebody to know whether the orders are more on the weekend versus weekday, whether the orders let us say orders are suddenly stopping at 12 in the night every day, but nobody realizes that. I think only a visualization analyst with a data science background will create such a chart where he will show number of orders every day by hour, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., 11 p.m. to 12 p.m., 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Suddenly you'll see that 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. When you look at it at minute level, you see that there are 0 orders every day, or maybe very less orders every day. So that helps
Srujan,
to somebody.
just
Yeah.
to interrupt, so I had worked one of the project. I want to give them one example of this data visualization, how it has actually improved the client's efficiency. So that project was for Walmart, and what happened was they were capturing a lot of data through the camera. Okay, and when they see that most of the middle-aged men who recently had a child will be buying diapers in one section in the Walmart, and they have to drag that entire trolley and go back to the beer counter, where will be they again loading that entire cart with the beer. Now in the process, what used to happen, they were not able to load the entire cart. They will pick some beer will get broken, and that was a hectic process, because that will also block the path for other customers. So Walmart was very smart in identifying, okay, these are the data points we can see from the visual graphics, and what can we do about this data? So this data is lying in tables, okay. And what they came up with this, what if we move that entire beer counter just beside the diapers counter? So the person, whoever will be buying the man of 40 aged year, right, of a diaper, he will be also buying the beer. Then that will save a lot of transit journey from the exit to the entry. So that was
Yeah,
one of
that's
the
a good one.
programs.
Yeah, I heard this story too. I heard this story too. That's a real a good example. Thanks for that. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and just to complete the summary, then we found out that you have to understand certain concepts of data warehousing so that you join the right tables, and then finally you move to visualization, right? You have the right data now in the right formats, and then you use them to show some nice visualization so that insight to the end client, right? Earlier, we used to spend hours and hours and teams, so many teams, like 5, 6 members of teams who have MBA, graduations, and they sit together and they mine the data from different sources and then write the insights on a PPT and then send the PPT. Right? But this Tableau and ClickView, when you mix with the data science, all these insights automatically come out when the user starts interacting with the dashboard. So I really like the modern tools. They enable so many things in very quick time. There is another question there from audience, which is how much can we make in a visualization role? Can we move to transition? Can we move or transition into ML roles from a visualization role? Well, I think basically the question is, uh, if I start here, what would it take to go into a pure ML role, or right? And how much can we make in a visualization? Let me answer the first question. Maybe you can take the second question, Dev. First question is how much we make in a visualization role. So the starting salary for visualization analyst, right? If you have data science background, it makes a difference. First of all, you have data science background versus you don't have a data science background. First, the pay scale is different. There is at least a 30% difference between both the roles. That's what we have seen in many of the companies where I worked and my friends have worked. You join a data science team as a visualization analyst versus you join as a visualization or a reporting personnel in a non-analytics team, non-analytics company or organization. The pay is 20 to 30% difference easily for the starters. Um, then the second question you can take there is, can we move or transition into ML roles from visualization role?
Yeah.
I know that you work on Python, you work on machine learning and cool stuff. Maybe you can answer this.
Yeah. So when like data visualization program, right? When if you are already a visualization analyst and if you want to transition to a ML role or an engineer role, I think the difference is you will not be working with the end product, but you will be somewhere in the middle layer, right? From the extraction process and to providing something to the visualization team. Okay, and the transition is a bit easy if you know the right tools like Python R, and you do your analysis and create the model to feed in. So just an example of what I showed, right? The sales example, you supermarket example you saw, right? I can see there is a column called sales. Can I also add a column called forecast where I can predict what will be my sales tomorrow? That exactly this particular value which I'm adding to the forecast is what an ML engineer does. Simple funda. You just need to know the right models, right tools, and you can get it through. It's not a big challenge at all. Over to you, Shujan. Yeah.
Yep, got it. So what we have, folks, is what we have here is IBM certified data warehousing and visualization analyst program. So the training program is around 40 hours plus all the exercises, assignments, assessments, and final interview preparation, mock interviews, submitting job applications. So all this is extra. 40 hours is for mainly training. The trainer is training you. So we'll start with introduction to data science and applications is business. Then we'll go towards other concepts that Dave has discussed. Data warehousing, extraction, what are the best practices that people follow, right? There are several concepts which we did not discuss here in this session, like regeneration, duplication, and um, outlier analysis, And then data modeling concept is also a very big concept. Then getting a hands-on experience in one of the tools like Tableau or ClickView, right? How to build charts, how to build stories, how to build animations, how to build dashboards, right? Finally, we'll have some project exercises. And of course, MySkillMantra believes in public portfolio creation. You would be creating your portfolio online so that when you go to the interview, you can just tell them that you have the dashboards already published, in your name on Tableau public forums, on ClickView forums, on Power BI forums, right? And we'll also help you write some blogs. We'll encourage you to write some blogs so that you can try to explore this field yourself and enjoy this too. And towards then, we'll have mock interviews with the two industry professionals, somebody like Dev, and we'll help you how to submit job applications so that your resume looks like you have all the skills that are required to get screened, to get your resume across. So, and this is an IBM certified course, data warehousing and visualization analyst program.